I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Now it's time for another episode of Blogger's Corner with Britt.
Hi, I'm Britt from EclecticPop.com, and welcome to a new episode of Blogger's Corner with the eponymous Dr. Bones. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm doing good.
Okay, so did you happen to see Witches? Are you caught up on Witches of East End?
Yes, I saw last week's episode.
All right, well, you can start her off, so I'll let you go first.
Well, I thought it was a really good episode. It kind of had some cohesive elements. There was a shocking death that I didn't really see coming, but for me, the highlight, Wendy went on a date with her new EMT paramour, and at every turn, there seemed to be something going wrong, and so they had to, overcome these very comedic kind of problems, but, so I thought it was really entertaining, and then in contrast to that, Frederick met up with some twins who were having the twin test. They had come out of the portal, and they had kidnapped Frederick and Freya and Ingrid's dad, and were holding him hostage. So he tries to come up with a plan to get Dad back, but things kind of go awry. So, and Killian and Dash, they try to put a protection spell on each other, and that also went terribly wrong, and Killian got very bad off, and Ingrid came in to save the day. But I really enjoyed this episode. I felt like it had the drama, there was some suspense, and then there was a little shot, like I mentioned earlier, shocking death, and then there was some comedy. So I really did enjoy this episode. What'd you think?
Oh, no, I really liked it too. I wasn't too happy about Victor dying, but because I thought he'd be sticking around for a little bit longer. But it was quite the episode, especially with that spell that Isis put on. So, and that's why obviously they switched bodies. Well, they switched them around so she could rescue Freya. But now we're starting to find a little bit more about that strange character that Ingrid's spending time with unknowingly. I
know. Ugh. That whole thing is just weirding me out. The creature just, he looks kind of demonic, so I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, well, obviously she doesn't know either, right? Because she was telling Dash that she's lapses of missing time, and she doesn't know what happened. Because she just kind of went in trance, went out there, like what am I doing out here? And why do I have these cuts on my shoulder?
I know, right? I would be a little alarmed by the developments that Ingrid's been experiencing.
So that was interesting. Obviously you saw the guy get dragged away by this creature at the very end. So maybe it was this creature the whole time. Maybe it wasn't Isis and her brother.
It may not have been. I'm intrigued to find out the answer to that and kind of blow the whole identity of who this creature that Ingrid's been having these amnesia hookups with is.
Well, yeah, and it's almost like he's feeding on her somehow.
Right. That's a very good point. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, it seems like he might be sucking her energy or something.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, because he was really weak until she came, and all of a sudden, the stuff comes out of his body and kind of latches onto her.
Yeah, very. It's been weird. The whole anatomical situation there, the whole dynamic. It's like, how about that?
Well, I know. That's one thing. I just haven't spent too much time trying to figure out that part of it, but it's it just really weird. And the only thing is, even if he is sucking her energy, it doesn't seem to be affecting her, at least not at this point.
Right, yeah. She seems to... I was kind of thinking there might be something where she wasn't going to be able to turn back somehow the spell, or there had to be another way to fix that, but I was kind of surprised that she was able to. But then again, didn't she just do that by... It wasn't really her magic. She had to talk them through using the magic.
Right, yeah, because they did the reverse spell.
That's right. So she might not realize it, but she might not have the same amount of powers as she was, a little bit ago.
Oh, that's a possibility too. So that's something we'll have to find out. I'm assuming they're going to develop this character a little bit more and show us who the hell this guy is. Because, yeah, I'm with you. He's probably a demon of some form.
It's a little tricky. I'm wondering if he will eventually take a human form, or maybe he'll walk around as a human, and I don't really know. But he needs to get out of whatever form he's working right now, because it is scary.
Well, yeah, well, yeah, it's scary, but I want to see what he's doing, because obviously this is a bit of a new plot twist, so they're going to have to put a stop to this creature, beast, whatever the hell it is. So they're going to have to develop them. They're going to have to show a bit more. And with the whole Wendy and her new love interest, I think something's going to happen. I think it's one of those things where like he's probably going to die, because she's like, no, we should listen to what the Earth is saying. And these things are happening for a reason. So I don't think he'll last too long.
I think you make a very good point, because I'm kind of getting the vibe. I used to watch a show back in the day called Providence, where this woman, she came to live, the plot of the show is that she came to live in Rhode Island with her family, and she'd been like a big New York City plastic surgeon. And I remember, spoiler alert for those that haven't seen it, but I think it came back in 1999. But they spent this whole season with her, she had her walls up, and then she fell in love with this guy, only to have him die. So it was a kind of a storyline to have her grow up, and that's kind of the sense I'm getting with Wendy and this guy.
Well, it's one of those things, it's like he's probably meant to die, just because, like it's one of those things, you can only save a person so many times, until like, it's one of those things that if it were, like, if that kind of stuff did happen, that you get too consumed to try and protect this guy or girl. I know it's a guy in this case, but guy or girl, and unfortunately you kind of let go and let the death be inevitable.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think that's kind of one of the overriding themes of these kind of shows, is that you can't stop the inevitable. So I don't know. I hope he sticks around for a while, because I really like him and Wendy together. But I don't. I do. I think it's really sweet. And the actor, shout out, he used to be on General Hospital years ago, and I remember him. And so I'm so excited for him that he's on a primetime show now. So yeah, that's very exciting. I was like, oh my gosh, Ignacio Sorrentino he is on a primetime show now. I'm so excited.
Oh, fair enough. I didn't know that, but all right.
a little trivia there for you.
But yeah, I'm not sure. Like, this is just a guess, so I don't know this for sure. So I'm gonna take a guess. He's not gonna last long, but I could be completely wrong.
I think you've been able to predict a lot with the show. So my bet would be that you're probably correct. But one thing I did enjoy this week was the thing with Frederick. He's becoming a very interesting character. Mm-hmm.
And they're definitely developing, I guess, in a sense of learning to trust him a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued about his backstory. I do think that they do need to integrate Freya into things more. She kind of all the other characters are really great and well put on the show, but she seems to kind of be an afterthought. Are you feeling that too? Yeah,
she's more of a sideliner.
Yeah, and I don't understand that, because Jenna doing Tatum was in Step Up, and she's been in some other stuff, so I don't really know why she's being kind of cast out as a sidecar character.
I'm not sure. I mean, I think pretty much because they focus a lot on the first season, right? So maybe they're trying to give other characters a chance to kind of spread around a little bit.
That's very true.
Because she was engaged to Dash and that whole thing, so a lot of it did revolve around her.
Yeah, that's very true. I do have to say that Dash does annoy me, but at least sometimes on these shows when people hook up with other people and they betray them, they seem to get over it very quickly. It's no big deal, like no one cares, but Dash is really holding a grudge.
Yeah.
That's been a different side of things.
Well, I think that's probably more or less going to be, that's going to drive like the evil part of them,
right? Or
the angry part. So I think they're doing that intentionally, just because it's kind of helps create his character a little bit more, and like his. I mean, with these powers, who knows what's going to happen? But yeah, I'm going to take a shot in the dark and say that he's going to turn out evil once he knows how to control these powers. Then he won't be scared anymore, and he'd be a little less controllable.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think he's headed down to the dark side. I am intrigued that he and Ingrid seem to be getting along. I don't know if they're like plotting out a romance between them or testing it out. But it's interesting that she has this perception of him that sometimes on other shows the sister acts like the guy is completely evil after the other sister betrays them.
Right.
And so it's nice that they're kind of showing the shades of that she's not bad mouthing him or anything.
Well, I never thought of it that way, but yeah, no, for now it's a good point. That's a really good point, actually. But
do you think that they woke up?
It's definitely possible. I mean, it kind of looks like though that's the way they're headed, but it might just be like a sidetrack.
True.
So, that'd just be my guess. Well, just because it's just one of those things where, I don't know how to put this right. I mean, it's not that I have like any bad words to say about it. I'm just trying to think about it, put in perspective here.
I got you.
But yeah, it's just one of those things. I think there is potential, but like I said, they might be using that to kind of throw a little kind of not necessarily fuel in the fire, but kind of get you sidetracked and kind of like, oh, this might happen. So if it doesn't happen, it won't be as much of a shock, I guess.
I got you.
Because there's some people who get really invested in the characters, really invested.
That's very true, and I know people really get into couplings and stuff, but it tends to be that they are together for such a short time that it's really, I don't know. Typically, if it's a very popular coupling, the more they're going to keep them apart. So it's the very fact that people get so excited about them makes the showrunners kind of want to say, "Oh man, people really tune in if we just continue to tear them apart because they want them back together." They don't put them together more, unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh, well, in this case, I don't think. I think the Dash and Freyr are done. I think they're going to try to tie her in with Killian and then get Ingrid to work the Dash angle for a little bit and see how that pans out. Because I'm not sure if people are going to actually want to necessarily see them together, but it might be one of those things like, well, it might make an interesting plot twist, and if we hook the kind of the we'll call it the goody sister up with a guy who's got powers, and now he's an evil guy, right? So
that's true.
So there are different ways they can go. It's all a matter of which way they're going to go, and that's obviously the part of the idea is they want to make you think like, are we going to do this? Oh, is he kidding? So and yeah. Out there, so we'll get back to the part they had me going and take off from there.
Oh, I was saying they had me going thinking they were going to do a big storyline with Victor and having him and the mom together, whose name I can't think of, right? Joanna, having them together, and then nope, he's toast. Yeah,
I know, and that's the other thing. I think that's may have got a few people a little angry. Like, I mean, I'm not terribly angry. I just kind of want to see the character develop a little bit more. So, kind of like a little bummed, but I'm not going to lose sleep over it.
There you go.
That sort of thing. Because, like I said, I know some people, they get like really invested in the character, and it's such a shock. And it's like, I understand that people do it. I don't personally. I mean, I'll enjoy the show. Like, at the same time too, is like I'm not completely invested in the character to the point where like it's a shocker if they don't do a certain thing, right?
Yeah, that's very true.
And sometimes they play it out way too long and it can get really annoying. And I'll use an example of playing it out way too long, even though it was a very funny show and lasted a while, was the whole Ross and Rachel thing on Friends. That got really irritating after a while.
Yeah, see, exactly. And on The Office, Jim and Pam, they waited for forever on that.
Well, sometimes, it gets annoying. It's like, oh, come on, alright, either get to it or don't get to it. Like there's now this is the point where you're losing people's interest. So it's like,
that's very true.
All right, well, this was a good plot line for about 2 years. Now I want something else.
Exactly. I know people kind of go back and forth on it, but I think when you're writing a couple and they're better off together but not together as opposed to together, and you can't have a bunch of story just with having them together, they might not be as strong as a coupling as you need to really anchor a show as a romance.
True, exactly. I mean, I don't think like either relationship, if it does happen, Killian, Freya, and Dash and Ingrid, I don't think that's going to make or break the show. I mean, it's just the action and the whole kind of background. Because now Frederick introduced to it, plus his other demons. So I think they're probably, since Victor's dead now, they'll probably focus a little bit more on Frederick and the demons, kind of find out more about both of them. Because I think the relationship thing, they'll probably be in it a little bit, but it won't be as prominent as the other two things because people are more focused on who's this demon, and I want to know more about Frederick. Like, who is this kid really?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think they have a lot of different things going for them, and I don't think the relationships are at the top of that list is the most important. And like you, I'm very interested in seeing what's going to happen with Frederick.
So yeah, I am too. So I mean, that's we'll have to see this Sunday. So I'm glad you caught up. So it's cool to talk about it, but it's nice to hear your opinion too, because obviously we're not always going to see eye to eye on it. So
very true. Yes.
And if we did, we wouldn't really have a show. So
I agree. Oh, you agree? Okay, it's so great.
Well, I mean that's the point. It can't be all like the well, one of my favorite sayings, can't all be sunshine and farts, right? So.
Very true.
So, but yeah, I mean, so yeah, I'm looking forward to see what happens, but I hope they don't sidetrack too much, because I mean that'll lose my interest, because like this is one of those shows that it's hard to make it last, because people are interested, but you really gotta make it interesting, because werewolves, vampires are a little bit easier to make up plot lines, that sort of thing. But witches, it's a little bit different. So it's one of those things. It's a constant, constantly you got to work hard, because otherwise, it could tank fairly quickly. And obviously, we don't want that to happen. At least not with this one. So.
Yeah, it's very true. That's what happened. I think it was 2 years ago. They had a show on the CW called The Secret Circle. It was about teen witches, and it only lasted one season. And they just kind of burned through story. It is like you said. It's hard to sustain stuff for a long time, for a long period of time. And even some of these shows, which I call concept dramas, where they have something that you can just really go one season, also known as a mini series, and just kind of close it out, as opposed to just dragging something out past its lifetime. Like, I'm looking at you under the dome. One season, let's wrap it on up.
Well, and that's true, right? I mean, and sometimes you wonder why they were canceled to begin with, because some of the shows just they were really good. At least, I mean, I thought they were good and they seemed to be doing really well. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they're canceling. It's like, well, why are you canceling it? Like, what's the deal here? Because the one show, it was an HBO show, but the one show they canceled after 3 seasons, and I was a little ticked about it because it was such a funny show. Was I've talked about this in earlier shows, but a show called Bored to Death.
Right.
And, that was Zach Galifianakis and Ted Danson and the guy named was Jonathan Ames, but it was a really funny show. And one of the reasons that they canceled was because Ted Danson went to CSI.
Okay.
So I'm assuming, but maybe he did that after the fact. After they found out they were getting canceled, I was like, all right, well, I can do this gig over here, so I'm out. But it was funny because I loved Ted Danson's character on that show. It was really funny. I mean, it's kind of like, it's kind of got the suaveness of Sam from Cheers, but he's a bit more of a lunatic in this one. And it makes it so funny. He's like not like not insane crazy, just kind of off the wall,
I gotcha.
And it made it so much more funny, and like one of the funniest ones I ever saw. I mean, it still makes me laugh when I think about it. Ted Danson wanted to come because Zach Galifianakis had a car, so he drove Jonathan to all these places. Because what he did was he listed himself on Craigslist as an unlicensed PI. And mainly because they were bored to death, right? So he was a book writer, wasn't doing too well. Ted Danson owned a magazine and kind of helped him with a few things. And, he was in denial. He's like, I'm not an alcoholic because I drink white wine. And, but the same thing, too, is like he really, throughout the show, you didn't really see him drinking that much at all. So they didn't really focus on that. It was just kind of like one of those opening things, like his girlfriend's leaving him, that sort of thing. And it goes, oh, yeah, you're an alcoholic. I said, I'm not an alcoholic. I drink white wine, I don't know what the reasoning behind that was. Like, I mean, like, I don't know how what the joke. I mean, it was funny, but I'm not sure what the whole joke was. Like, I'm still trying to figure that out. But yeah, so one time they went on one of these investigations or what have you, and Zach Galifianakis and Ted Danson are sitting in the car while Jonathan's up at the door, and them two together was so funny because one thing Zach Galifianakis and Ted Danson do a lot of, Jonathan does quite a bit, but it's not as much they do, is they smoke a lot of pot.
Oh.
So they decide to smoke one in the car, you know, and of course they're like, he's like, you know what? Ted Danson's like, says, you know what? I haven't talked to my daughter in so long. He's like, oh, you should call her. He's like, no. He's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to call her. So, like, of course he calls his daughter, and it's pretty funny. And then they're thinking, he's like, well, after that phone call is done, he's like, how long has he been in there? He's like, I don't know, like 2 hours, maybe 2 minutes. I have no idea. He goes, usually I set a timer when I smoke so I don't lose a lot of time. And I just started dying laughing, but like the chemistry between those two was hilarious. Like that whole because pretty much they only showed Jonathan a few times until it got more important. But they had those two going back and forth for a while in the car, and it was just so funny because they just had such good chemistry.
That is great when you have a comedic duo like that. I wonder why they haven't done any movies together.
I don't know, but that one scene just in general was funny. I mean, the casting director for the show did a great job because those three together was something else. I mean, they worked so well together, and it was perfect because they each the different personalities, but they fed off each other very well, and it's just one of those things that it was a good idea, and it's one of those things that you could picture these guys being friends like this, like outside of work, or whatever they're doing. You can see these guys actually hanging out quite a bit together.
That's the best when you see that kind of chemistry and it feels so genuine,
All right, so it was definitely that convincing, and it was like I said, it was a great show, but canceled it early. And like I said, they didn't say too much online, so I'm not sure if Ted Danson was offered and then jumped ship, or they said we're not going to do it, and then Ted Danson says, "Yeah, I'm going to jump ship. I'm going to go to CSI because there's nothing here anymore."
Interesting. I will look into that.
So yeah, that'd be something to figure out. It'd be interesting to see. Not too much else going on, but I'm trying to think. There's blanking on his name right now. But the guitarist for he was a guitarist for Alice Cooper back in the day, and he just recently passed away at 71. And I feel horrible that I can't remember his name. But yeah, he passed away the other day. And other than that, Nine Inch Nails and Soundgarden have kicked off their North American tour. So they already played Toronto, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours away. I think it was like 2 or 3 days ago. And it was a pretty good concert. I've seen both of them by themselves, and it's one of those things like I was kind of interested to go, but I wasn't that interested in going to see it.
All right.
So. I mean, just because it's enough time, so it wasn't a big deal, so.
I got it.
But, yeah, other than that, there's nothing too exciting, kind of just the same old fun stuff we hear every day. So, rather than touch on that, let's get into your blogs.
Okay, well, first of all, best new movie bet. So, this weekend, Guardians of the Galaxy opens up. I haven't posted this yet, but I did choose Guardians of the Galaxy as the best new bet. Because everyone is talking about it. I don't know. I'm kind of hesitantly excited. The main reason I want to see it is because Chris Pratt is in it, who has been outstanding in a lot of these supporting roles. He's got great comedic timing and wit. So he's on Parks and Recreation. And on Everwood back in the days, Emily Van Camp's kind of offbeat brother, if you will.
Right.
So he's come a long way, and now he's getting his leading role. And so that's exciting. And also the director of Guardians of the Galaxy directed this really amazing dark comedy a few years ago called Super with Rainn Wilson. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it was kind of like a satire on the whole superhero craze and franchise and everything, and Rainn Wilson played an average man who decides to become a superhero, and it's very dark. It's dark but very funny. It's satirical. It's
okay.
Because I was laughing, I was like, this is so wrong to laugh at this, but then I just continued laughing. It's actually Ellen Page is in it, and it's the best best role I've ever seen her in. She plays his sidekick, Speedy, and she's this girl who works in a comic book store who's obsessed with comics, and so she is like, oh, I want to be a superhero too. So it is very funny. It kind of takes a little bit to kind of start off, but then when it gets going, it really gets going. So having seen his work in that, I'm excited. I think that Guardians of the Galaxy might offer a little bit of some comedy in there, because that's something I really liked about the original Iron Man movie.
Right.
They had thrown in some comedy, you know?
Right. Sorry, Britt, continue. Just give me 1 second. Keep talking, all right?
Okay. And so I really did enjoy that in the first Iron Man, that they did have the comedy. And, you know, sometimes these superhero movies can get so serious. For instance, the Batman series. But I do think it's important to kind of have the whole element of not just having a comedic relief, but actually having a little bit something fun. And I think this movie aims to kind of embrace its B-plus moviness in that it is not really going to be taking itself that seriously.
Right.
But also, just the whole aspect with having, my biggest concern is that the movie seems to be 98% CGI alien things, and that for me just gets very visually boring.
Very true. Just one moment. Keep going.
Sure. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. And then, so I just, that for me, it was like with the original not the original Star Wars, but when they made the prequels, they had so much alien and everything that I just got very bored. It was not stimulating anymore. I found it to be very oppressive, and just kind of, it made me feel like it was kind of like a live action cartoon. And that for me is a bit of a killer. But I am hesitantly excited about it. Also opening this week is the James Brown biopic, Get On Up. So
right, you know what? Sorry to interrupt there. I'm really interested to see this one, because I actually got a chance to see James Brown live years ago in Montreal.
Wow.
So yeah, it was awesome to see him. And sorry about that little interruption there. I just have to take care of something very quickly. So not to be rude, guys. And I know Britt and I both love to talk, so I'm glad you get to fill a little bit of time. I do apologize. So continue on.
Oh yeah, I was saying it opens up this weekend, so that's a touch of something real and tangible, and a really good story. So I think that will be a really good movie to check out.
I'm hoping so. I mean, like I said, I got a chance to see him because this was at the Montreal Grand Prix, and this was 95, I want to say. No, 96. The summer of 96, there was a bunch of free shows downtown Montreal, and James Brown was one of them.
That is incredible. And
that was an awesome show. And I just like one of those things that at that time, I knew who James Brown was, I knew the big hits, but I was into it, but wasn't that into it. But once I saw the show, I was like, wow.
I know, a very electrifying performer. Very cool. That is so cool that you got to see him.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So hopefully they do a good job. Because that year too, the same summer, because the shows were about they're pretty much every night for like 3 or 4 days. And there was one band that played. They were around they're pretty much one-hit wonders. I mean, they had a couple of good tunes, but they're actually a really cool band live. There's a band called the Presidency of the United States of America.
Oh, okay.
And they had a song called Peaches. Which is probably one of the biggest ones. But anyways, it was really cool to see them live. It was a lot of fun. So that was definitely a good summer of shows.
Sounds like it.
But back to the movies that are coming out. Was it the Star Trooper Galaxy? Was it called?
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. I don't know if I'm gonna go see it just because I like sci-fi, but I'm not that into it. Mm-hmm. So it does look cool. You're right with all the CG effects, that sort of thing. It does look cool. So it's got potential. I just don't know if I'm willing to go out and see it in the theaters. I think it's one of those things I might watch on TV at home.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that I will probably wait for DVD or the discount theater, because the whole talking raccoon thing for me is just I don't know how to feel about that. It's just I do think this movie will really appeal to people who are the Marvel faithful and people who are just really hardcore fans. Because it's going to be very interesting to see how the box office does this weekend, because these are not very well-known characters. So there's not been I don't feel from the general public a big frenzy to have this adapted. So it's going to be interesting if people show up for characters they don't really know.
No, fair enough, and I I totally agree with that. And I'm just like I'm in no rush to see it. So like maybe it'll do well, maybe it won't. But I don't know. There hasn't been, at least in my eyes, there haven't been any like real blockbusters this summer, anyways.
I totally agree. This has been the slowest. I know it's been a slow summer box office wise, but just in terms of the output of movies, there's just not been one that has really set off a sensation. Last week with Lucy, I went to go see it, and then we'll be posting a review later. But it was, I wanted to like it so badly, but I felt a little bit underwhelmed.
Yeah, because like I haven't seen it, but seeing the previews, it looked interesting. But now you say that, it's like, well, maybe it kind of sounds kind of right because you can only go so far with that, with the idea of like using 100% of your brain, right? So
it's very true. I mean, the whole theory, which I believe most of it's been kind of disproven. I'm not a scientist, so don't hold me to that. But But the idea that if you were able to use let's just say 90% of your brain, here they say you could use 100% of it. If you're using 90% of your brain, would you actually be able to grow out your hair, change your hair color, get a new haircut, change your clothes as you walk without doing anything? I really don't see how using the full amount of my brain would really do that. If so, I'd be willing to sign up for some test studies, but I don't really think that's possible.
If that were, I think a lot of stuff they threw and so, this might be interesting, but yeah, I don't think even being able to use that much power of your brain, I still don't think, I think you're right, I don't think there's certain things you still be able to do, you still have to do, we'll call it manually.
Exactly. And so I feel like, and then again, it was the movie reminded me a bit of Transcendence, in that it was, it's about kind of, this fantasy from both of them is kind of about people not being people anymore. They kind of become, I don't want to say like a computer, but kind of sort of. They're not tangible anymore. Their minds just kind of seep into the planet. I do have to say that the fact that they kept talking about the science, and I saw what was happening, they were demonstrating it. Morgan Freeman almost had me, when he's talked about it, I was like, oh man, that makes total sense. And then I was watching and I thought, I don't know, but he did a very convincing job. He'd opened my mind to the possibility.
Well, see, that's the thing about Morgan Freeman, and it's funny, but they were so right. This was an older episode, like not too old, like I don't know, maybe 6 months to a year ago. But South Park, they did an episode, and they said, well, like a lot of movies, Morgan Freeman kind of comes in the end and wraps everything up, makes everything understandable, like even from the beginning. And they're so right, he does though,
He does.
Because think of every movie that Morgan Freeman's been in, and every single one, like he does kind of wrap it up and be like, oh, you're like, obviously classic, but per example is the Shawshank Redemption.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, he kind of does. Actually, that's a really good point. Never thought of it that way. I've never even looked at it that way.
Van is a master. I mean, he made Now You See Me watchable, and that was not a great movie.
No. I totally agree with that.
But yeah, I totally agree with you. They're wise too to put Morgan Freeman at the beginning of the movie, so he kind of talks the audience through through things throughout, so that he doesn't just like come up in the end and kind of wrap it up. So I really like that he was in the movie. It felt like he was in the movie more, as opposed to sometimes like he was also in Transcendence. I felt like he was also explaining some things there, but they didn't have them in there as consistently. So it was nice to see him, sewn throughout the movie a lot more.
No, very true, and like everything he's been in, I mean, like he just got one of those recognizable voices too, and but so distinct, and it's like James Earl Jones, and and obviously the younger crowd didn't realize that James Earl Jones did Darth Vader until they saw like Field of Dreams.
Right.
So it's like, oh, that guy sounds really familiar. Darth Vader.
He is Darth Vader.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not quite deep enough there, Britt. But I think you
no, I don't even want to try.
Okay, because you sounded like you kind of used like a bit of your southern twist on it, like.
Yeah, that kind of seeps in sometimes.
And instead of saying your lack of faith is disturbing, Commander, it's like, Not that that's deep enough. You know, obviously I can't go that deep either, but that's my best shot.
That was a lot better than mine. Truly. My sister does a wicked Sean Connery impersonation.
Oh, really?
So we always do that off each other, but people seem to approve of hers more. But she does a really amazing job.
See, when I think of Sean Connery, obviously he did Bond. That's what he's most known for. And of course, Finding Forrester and the Rock was actually really good. That was one with Nicolas Cage.
Yes, I love them.
And but you know the thing that makes me think of Connery the most is when they did Celebrity Jeopardy on Saturday Night Live, and Daryl Hammond did Sean Connery, and he did such a good job, and that's the stuff I think of because it's so funny and so ridiculous, you know, like you go in going from, let's say, The Rock, which is like middle 90s and into the 90s, maybe a little bit later than that, where he takes the guy's Humvee, and the guy goes, "What are you doing in my Humvee?" He's like, "I'm just boring you, Humvee." "Well, don't start to scratch it. I have your ass." And he looks at the phone. He's like, "What?" So you know, I think of that, and then like I said, the Celebrity Jeopardy, and like those kill me every time. And Daryl Hammond does such a good impression of Sean Connery, you know, and there's one, and he's like, "Oh, it appears it's my lucky day. I'll take anal bum covers for 400. That's album covers, Mr. Connery. Album covers." And just stuff like that. And of course, he makes fun of like every show. So
that was a very big highlight. I think a really great sketch for Saturday Night Live.
Well, it's just like Jay Moore's impression of Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
Because Jay Moore was on SNL for a little bit too, but he does a killer Christopher Walken impression, you know. And they actually had him on The Simpsons one time doing impression of Christopher Walken, and he was reading Where the Wild Things Are to the kids. And not Bartley's, but a group of kids is like, no, it's like, "Where the wild things are. Come a little closer." It's like, "Get closer." You know, like, but he does such a good job. He does a very, very good impression of him. So
that's very cool. I didn't realize Jay Moore did that.
Yep, yeah, I was surprised too because I think he initially did it on Saturday Night Live, and there was one episode I'm pretty sure where Christopher Walken was a special guest, and they put them together. And it's one of those things. If you close your eyes, you wouldn't be able to tell who the real Christopher Walken was because they both sounded so much alike.
Wow, that is interesting. I'll have to see if they get that on YouTube.
So I would bet they would. I think that's one thing that probably gets a lot of hits. So because some of the older SNL skits they're really hard to find, and I'm really surprised. I mean, some of them I thought were like really funny. So they're like, "Well, you can get the whole episode." I was like, "Well, I don't really want the whole episode to know what's funny. I just want to see this one bit," and you can't find anywhere. There's a few that I found, but the one, like, it just seems like I'll probably have to just get the episode. Generally, it was a funny episode. This was a while ago. John Turturro was a special guest, and he did. I think I've talked about this before. This skit was called "Stop That," and what John Turturro does is he pretty much played Shadow with whoever his guest was, and they get so frustrated and they leave. Right, and the first guy was a Spanish guitar player who was played by Kevin Nealon. So he was, copying the guitar, and then he gets all mad and he leaves. And then the last guy on was a guy named the actor's name is Chris Elliott.
Oh, right.
Right. He was in Something About Mary. He was Woogie. Like, he was in Groundhog's Day.
Yes.
He was the cameraman. He's out of his gourd. that guy. So he's in it, and then of course, guy starts getting frustrated with him, and then he kind of traps him, so he starts going the opposite way, and then John Turturro finds a loop and brings it back to him. He goes like, damn it, goes, stop that. So it was really, really funny. I mean, it actually was a very funny episode. He's a funny guy.
Yes, he is. He really is.
So the other thing that before I forget too is with John Turturro is like, this is more of a cult classic. I mean, you can find it. Like, I have the DVD, but the movie's called Brain Donors, and it's sort of like a modern day Marx Brothers, but it is really funny. I mean, it's slapstick, so it's slapstick comedy.
Oh, okay.
And John Turturro plays pretty much an ambulance chaser. If people don't know what that means, it means lawyers who chase ambulances to try to make a quick buck on a injury, that sort of thing. So that's his character, and of course there's a cab driver who lost a huge lawsuit because John Turturro was his wife's lawyer and apparently was sleeping with her too. So I mean, there's a good mix of characters, and like I said, it's really funny. It's like one of those things that's kind of slapstick at its best.
Oh, that's very cool. John Turturro is one of my favorites. He guest starred on the show Monk a few years ago, or I guess it was more than a few now. But he played Monk's brother, and that was one of my favorite guest starring things that anybody's ever done. He and they just really seemed like they were brothers. And I also like John Turturro in the movie Secret Window with Johnny Depp.
Right.
Yes. No, he's a very good actor.
Yeah, he can go both ways. You can do serious and you can do comedy.
Yeah, very true.
So that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this week. One thing I just wanted to talk about very quickly before I forget too is last Sunday I had my in-house interview with a high school sweetheart. And that was a lot of fun. They were so much fun, and it would kill me because I was listening to it over again the other day. And the cats had decided to come down and join us. So all you could hear is the collars, the bell on their collars coming downstairs. And White settled in. White hopped up the back of the couch, and Freya jumped up on Jess's lap, one of the singers. And then I guess White had jumped down, and he's walking around the table because there's all these people here. He wants to get attention. And he knocked like an empty glass over. He didn't break anything like that. And it was funny because then, like 2 seconds later, all you hear is the other singer Anne saying, "White, go lie down." I started cracking up. I was like, I forgot about that, but that made it funny,
Yes, that was a very natural moment.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun. They were a good bunch of people, and they played 3 songs live, which is awesome.
Oh, that was very cool.
So I had my own little private show.
That's the best.
But other than that, yeah, that's gonna wrap it up. Tomorrow will be a new episode of Music Saturday, and my special guest tomorrow will be Peter Klein. So guys, be sure to tune in for that. Until then, for Bloggers Corner, this has been a lot of fun. Britt, it's always a pleasure.
Always, same here. Thanks for having me.
So until next time, this is Dr. Bones and Britt saying thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week. Until then, Bones out.